Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. We're still waiting to hear back from Hall if he's joining us or not. He's having some connection issues, but we are fresh off of the 20-20 tie. This episode is called The Luck of the Draw for a reason. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We are now rejoined by himself from the Draft Network, Mr. Ryan Fowler. You could say is a very important person to this fan base. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, Kyle. I appreciate you having me on. But first, I want to say congrats for you. I know it's been probably a long last week and a half, probably more, but congrats, on your new baby and hopefully the wife and the baby's healthy. I just wanted to, give you my congrats before we get started.
Well, I appreciate that. I know that not only you, but a lot of people reached out on social media and then on the YouTube page as well. So I really do appreciate all you guys. It was a crazy weekend, to say the least. But that being said, it was capped off by the insane 20-20 tie. My pregame prediction was 17-16. I thought that they was going to come down to the last minute mistake, but looked like neither team wanted to make that mistake, right, Ryan?
Yeah, nobody likes a tie. I hate ties. And, we haven't seen one since London back in 2016. But it's disappointing considering the fact that you can go both ways, right? You could say the Giants could have won the game here. Washington could have won the game here. It's just disappointing when you look back, especially in overtime, and you got 1st and 10 at Giants 44 after a Curtis Samuel 21-yard run, and you're feeling good. You're thinking that Joey Sly, you don't really need much more, right? I'm comfortable with him lining up for a 55, 56-yarder, and trying to win you a ball game there. But obviously that didn't come to fruition, and you didn't win, you didn't lose. I know Charles Leno said it at the end of the ball game yesterday. It's kind of a lot like kissing your sister. It's not a win, it's not a loss, but it kind of stinks. So.
Yeah, James thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
But Ryan, my next question for you, because obviously Washington on offense was 3 of 14 on third down, which is not very good. 1 of 2 in the red zone. But the time of possession, over 40 minutes time of possession yet again. Where was the discrepancy, and what did we learn from this team from this tie?
Yeah, I think, again, everything starts for us on the ground. Everything starts for us on the ground. And Brian Robinson, I don't know about you guys, but he's becoming one of the top young backs in this entire league. He's been absolutely fantastic. And obviously the story goes beyond itself as far as what he's come back from, but he has been absolutely fantastic. And even looking at it yesterday, Antonio Gibson only had 9 carries, and Brian Robinson holstered the load. Even times yesterday, you look at Antonio Gibson, to me personally, he looked kind of unenthused. You saw him return the kick and drop the ball inside the 5. He really didn't look too enthused to me yesterday. And Brian Robinson's really taken over this backfield. And just really for Washington yesterday, it's just everything starts with the ground game. And if that's not working, you're forcing Taylor Heineke to force it down the field, and that's not really what you want ideally. Play action, he's been good on. I like to see him a little bit more outside the pocket than what we saw yesterday, but they did a good job on the edges with Thibodeau and Jihad Ward as far as those athletes on the outside. But I just yesterday, it wasn't great on third down. I know a lot of people had the concerns of what Scott Turner did, especially the back half of yesterday's ball game, but just for everything moving forward, especially as we get into that cold weather and Brian Robinson's come down the track, continue to feed the ground game.
Right. Yeah. And everybody, J-Mo, you got to chill, man. It's too late. Everybody wants to make a big deal about the refs, a lot of non-calls, a lot of calls that went the Giants' way. Did they really have as much of an outcome or as much of an effect on the outcome of this game as everybody's saying?
I remember last time being on the pod and we talked about the refs, and me, I'm not going to complain about the refs because if you're losing, you're going to complain about the refs. But if you're winning, you're not going to. I could even talk about the John Feliciano penalty, his taunting penalty that I didn't really think was taunting anyway. Right. It can kind of go back and forth, but if you just win the ball game outright, you take advantage of your opportunities in that first quarter when you got a first down at New York's 6-yard line. Instead of kicking a field goal, you punch it in there. Those are little things that come back to bite you in the butt. Joey Slice missed 52-yard field goal. I don't want to play hypotheticals. I hate playing shoulda, woulda, couldas. But if he knocks down that 52-yarder in that first half, Washington probably escapes that with a win, right? That's 3 points here or there. But for the refs, I'm not ever going to complain the refs. I know there's things here and there, but I just kind of bank on the fact of making your own luck and winning ball games outright instead of relying on the referees, which we know in any sport and in professional sports is just up in the air. You never know what you're going to get.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's almost like karma for the Eagles game. It's like after we
Right.
beat the Eagles, all these Eagles fans were talking about the refs, and we're like, you can't blame the refs. And then this game happens, and everybody's like, did you see what the refs did? The refs had such an effect on this game. It's like, I can't really
Yeah,
complain.
like I said on Twitter, look, the refs impact nearly every single game, and I think Washington lost that game in pass protection. They lost it in the missed field goal, and they lost it in not being able to contain the read option. But that being said, I want to get your kind of what your feelings are with Taylor Heineke. He was 27 to 41, so he threw for 65% of his throws, 275 yards, and 2 touchdowns with a 101.2 rating. But it seems like if you go on Washington Twitter, it's like they lost that game, and Taylor had a terrible game. Do you think that he did?
No, I don't think that he did. I think he kept the ball relatively safe. I don't think, these last few weeks, especially going back to that Minnesota game, you don't want to be the reason that you lose in football games, right?
Right.
Taylor Heineke's not going to be a guy you win games because of. He's a guy you're going to win games with. You can win games, obviously, with Taylor Heineke. I did not think he was bad yesterday, but still, this offense, from an aerial perspective and the weapons we have on the outside, I was really happy how involved Terry, Curtis, and Jahan were yesterday. It's really the first time we saw all three guys get a ton of targets, over 25 targets combined with those guys yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But Heineke, just his arm, we know the limitations that he has as a quarterback. But in retrospect, though, that makes things tougher on Scott Turner being conceptually different of what he wants to do in the run game and then trying to open up the passing game, make it easier, whether we saw that Terry McLaurin touchdown on the crossing route is isolated on the side of formation where he made Fabian Moreau, our old friend Fabian Moreau, and that garbage in the middle of the field. He went over top of it. Terry went under at the hashes. Great decision there by Taylor Heineke. Let your guy that runs 4-3 in space. So just little things like that.
And he caught it one-handed.
Yeah, it's just like from a Scott Turner's perspective, those are little things that go into Taylor Heineke under center. I did not think it was bad, but moving forward, if you're a good passing team, at some point you're going to run the ball. You're a good running team, you're going to at some point you have to pass the ball. And teams, yesterday we saw a lot of that dollar personnel that Giants ran, 7 DBs on the field. No other team in the NFL does that. What that tells me is they're giving a ton of respect to McLaurin and the Dotson and Samuel, all those other guys on the outside and the speed that they have. But at the end of the day, you got Taylor Heineke throwing the ball. Their safeties aren't going to be 15 yards downfield. They're going to be 10 to 12 yards like they were yesterday with Julian Love and Jason Pennick and Dane Belton, guys making plays. But I'm not going to blame it on Taylor Heineke, but there's limitations there that I don't know if a guy like Carson Wentz with his arm talent or Sam Howell and his talent could really, really expand this playbook and really allow Scott Turner to really open it up because it is limited with him under center.
Yeah, and to give context to what you were saying, Taylor, for me, it seems like he just can't. He's not throwing with touch. Like he worked on this power of his throw in the offseason. It seems like he doesn't have the touch on it because that one Logan Thomas catch that could have been possibly set up for the touchdown, I felt like that was a touch throw. Then the one in the end zone to Terry last week that he missed, that's another touch throw that he missed. But to give context, what you actually said, Terry had 12 targets, Samuel had 7, and Dotson with 9. So it leads you up there with 28 targets in total. And then Brian Robinson with 21 carries, Antonio Gibson with 9 carries, ran the ball nearly 30 times, and had over 25 targets. There are 3 top wide receivers. That's balance, baby.
Yeah,
it is. And even though the tight ends weren't great yesterday, I wish I saw more out of them, but especially in the run game. I thought John Bates was okay, but he gave up a sack. It just, tight ends, too many good talents in that building to really, they were not good yesterday overall.
Right. Yeah. And not only the tight ends, the offensive line, too. They struggled. Charles Leno, we saw, had that one where I guess it was a miscommunication. He thought the back was going to pick up Thibodeau, and he just completely left him unblocked on that huge, I think it was 3rd down. And then we saw Cornelius Lucas get his helmet ripped off. We
Was
saw
that
Tyler
the one
Larson
near the goal line?
Yeah.
I think by the video, it looked like that they didn't shift the protection, so Leno had to chip the inside guy and get the outside guy. It was a failure in protection from my point.
Right. Yeah. And then of course Tyler Larson, friend of the show, went down with an injury because of the turf. Man. Yeah. So what does Washington have to do during this bye week to kind of bounce back? Like where do they need to improve from the last few games?
I think it's a perfect time for a bye. I really do. We know we talked about it earlier as far as just a late bye. This is the last week with teams having byes. I think there's 4 or 5 teams with byes this week. Get a change of scenery, get some fresh air in the Caribbean, or you want to go south and get warm, drink some margaritas, let people get healthy. We saw Sam Cosmi, Benjamin St-Juste, 2 second-year guys that need to get their backside on the field, guys. They need to get on the field, especially Benjamin St-Juste. Yep. Christian Holmes, it was kind of nice against Atlanta. It was raining, and they ran the ball, and he was only targeted once. Yesterday, Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins, Those aren't any guys that are going to move the needle for anybody, and they tore him apart. We need St. Juice on the field and Sam Cosmi at right guard. I don't know what to think of this interior, what they're going to do. We may even see Chris Paul activated for the first time on that Sunday Night Football game now that they flexed on Week 15. I don't know what to do with the interior, but the bye week, I think, is at a perfect time, and I hope we see Chase Young, hopefully, on Sunday Night Football.
Absolutely. Now to wrap this up, Ryan, I only have a couple more questions for you. I was going to ask you about the loss of Benjamin St. Juice, but it's okay. But talk to me about Jahan Dotson. That one touchdown catch with that spin move that he puts on the linebacker, just that shoulder tab. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. Talk to me about his coming out, not really a coming out game. We already knew about Dotson, but the fan base was kind of wanting more of Dotson, and we got that yesterday with 5 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets.
Yeah, being wide receiver 2 in this offense, being Terry allowing me wide receiver 1 and Curtis being that chess piece. You watched Jahan yesterday, and then you kind of turn on his tape and what he did at Penn State so successfully is just being able to get the ball in his hands and being able to create. He is very similar to the fact of, you look at Terry, Curtis, Deami, very similar bodies. Jahan is just fantastic. I mean, I thought personally he had the best hands in the entire class. He was just fantastic yesterday. A guy that just brings his hard hat to work, doesn't say anything, not a flashy guy by any means. I mean, the spin move in open field, that's pretty darn flashy if you ask me. But just more comfortability for him in this offense, staying healthy. It's a perfect slot for him to be behind Terry and learn from not just a player like Terry, but a man that Terry is, and the individual that he is will only get him better in this offense, and the rapport that he continues to develop with Taylor Heineke. He's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and then Ryan, my next question for you. They were 1 for 2 in the red zone, and I think that we can all agree that the red zone is probably one of the major differences in them winning these football games. Score touchdowns rather than field goals. What's going on in the red zone? Because for me, I feel like correlation of the red zone scoring points is running the football effectively, and they did that with Brian Robinson averaging 4.6 yards per carry. So what's going on in the red zone? What's going wrong? And then what would you do to adjust it, maybe to fix the issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because in the red zone, obviously, everything is tighter, right? You don't have as many leeway as far as the end zone is shrunk in that red area, but continue to run the football. I don't care if you run the ball on first down and you don't get anything, and you run it for 3 yards here, you run it for 4 yards there. Just continue to pound the ball, but as much as you can, be creative in what you're doing from a running perspective. And what I mean by that was on that possession in overtime when you gave it to Curtis Samuel, you didn't run it to the left side to where in that game where Andrew Norwell was healthy and Charles Leno was healthy. You gave it to the right side where we got some new bodies. And you didn't give it to Brian Robinson or Antonio Gibson. You gave it to Curtis Samuel. Then you come in and get Brian Robinson 3 yards. Now it's 2nd and 7. Then you get negative 3 yards to the same side on the left side of the formation. Now, I'm a big guy as far as execution. Big thing with that. I'm not going to blame everything on Scott Turner. However, in the red zone, run the football even more. You feed everything through the front 5. I would like to see even Taylor Heineke on some boot action stuff. Now, that's a big thing with the backside of the formation, blocking those DNs, which again, we mentioned earlier, they did a nice job of. Target those tight ends as much as you can. You drafted Cole Turner for a reason. You drafted John Bates for a reason. If you wanted another just inline tight end, bring Jeremy Sprinkle back. I mean, continue to be unique in what you do and not showing the same exact looks that you do in between the 20s that you show inside the red zone. So just being conceptually different and continue to feed your big backs when it gets colder and colder and colder, and you're feeding Brian Robinson 25 times already and Antonio Gibson 10 times. Defense is going to, I don't want to tackle a guy 225 pounds when it's 30 degrees out at 10 o'clock at night and he just pounded me for 115 yards. Continue to feed those big boys in the red zone.
Yeah, kind of like Reed on a Saturday night. He loves it.
That's what,
only a couple more I have for you. It's only 2. I'll put these together. But the read option, we went into this game knowing that was a big problem. Daniel Jones ended up being the leading rusher on the day for New York with 71 rushing yards on the day. So talk to me about that, and then also Game Beers, somebody that you think deserves to kick their feet up, deserves a little bit of time to enjoy their bye week, but get back to work.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Say that first question again. I was thinking about the Game Beers. You got
the read option. What happened, and then can they fix it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time we see Daniel Jones, he rushes for 70, 80 yards against him. And he's one of those guys that's sneaky athletic in this league, and he's continually done that. He was at that like that at Duke. It just didn't use him.
Little known fact, yeah, he won a silver medal in the Special Olympics for sprinting the 100-yard meter. Yeah, the 100-meter. He has stupid face. He looks dumb.
Very stupid. Just like Eli was, right?
Exactly.
Like
Perfect. Yeah.
But yeah, I just think he's a Gumby white dude. That's what he is. I know people use the Caucasian Michael Vick. People have been calling Daniel Jones. It's silly and it makes me mad because you drafted Jamin Davis for a reason, and you got athletes like Derek Forrest and Percy Butler and Cam Curl. They weren't going to beat you through the air at all yesterday. At points, it looked like it when Christian Holmes on the outside and got his backside bench for Danny Johnson, and I thought Danny Johnson did an okay job yesterday, even though he was targeted a ton. But just it's staying honest and also bringing more bodies into the box there and saying, hey, look, we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. We can allot bodies to him, but just a Cam Curl in the box, a Derek Forrest, bring him up and force him to beat you with your arm. Those are just little things that I think Jack Del Rio has done a nice job with against Atlanta. We saw the same things against Atlanta. Why not use some of those same tactics against a guy like Daniel Jones, where from an athletic perspective, he's not as good or athletic as Marcus Mariota? And then game beers. For me, I'm the biggest. I have slandered Kendall Fuller a lot. And Kendall Fuller has been really good this last month of the season. Wasn't picked on, obviously, yesterday too much, but he's been really good on the outside. And Benjamin St. Juste has been hurt, and it's been a rotation of Holmes and Danny Johnson and Rashad Wildgoose having had some penalties yesterday on special teams. But Kendall Fuller, for me, has been really good on the outside, and he's going to have to be huge as obviously we head into the back end of the season when they face Dallas again, they face New York again, face Cleveland. So these are some teams where they're going to start throwing around a little bit. So where Kendall Fuller is going to have to be huge on the outside. And for me, a game beer guy that wasn't heavily involved, and you don't want to hear your corners a lot on the broadcast, I'm going to say Kendall Fuller.
Absolutely. I think he does deserve it, and I think this one might be his lone ones. But you're a good man for doing that, Ryan. Before you get out of here, would you just like to plug your social media handle just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to?
Yeah, Twitter _ Ryan Fowler. All my written work, more audio, video content is at thedraftnetwork.com. And then I have my own personal podcast is Commanding the Huddle. New episodes come out every Monday and Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, appreciate it, Ryan. Have a good night, sir. Enjoy this Monday Night Football.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you guys.
Left hand up,
See ya.
baby.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on, everybody? It's good to be back. It's good to be back here to talk with you guys. I thought the Hall and Reed, I thought the Mikes did a very good job on Friday night when I rewatched that episode on Saturday. I'm sorry it took so long to upload on YouTube. The hospital Wi-Fi was so slow. It told me it was supposed to upload it, because not only does it upload, it has to actually progress it afterwards. The upload itself was an hour and a half. It took over 12 hours.
Jesus. Yeah.
Just to upload it. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, you guys, but I'm glad to be
Hospitals are
back.
the worst.
Yes,
Yeah.
but we got to talk about this. The luck of the draw, them going 20-20, it's kind of a crazy game for me because it didn't really feel like they should have been in that game. They threw the game away essentially with the sack fumble at the beginning of the third quarter that made it easier for New York. But then they came back, and the Jahan Dotson touchdown was absolutely incredible. They shouldn't have been back in that game, but they did. It felt like that game should have been a loss, but it ended up in a tie. And I feel like, I don't want to say it's a moral victory, but it's better than a loss in that breath because they shouldn't have won that. But
right.
That being said, they did tie it up. I'm not sure how many people really do deserve game beers, but if you do, you want to give them out?
Yeah, I mean, this one, it's going to be fairly obvious, but I just think that this guy is just so important to this team, and you see it before every game. You see it kind of after every game. He's always kind of making the national headlines, and that's Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen, he's just so good at what he does. And even if he doesn't have the best game on the field, just him being there, before the game, he's going to get this defense riled up. In big situations, he's going to talk to these guys and they're going to be ready to go. And, after the game, just like he did, he said he's going to buy 150, 200 tickets and give away to Commanders fans for the next game because they need everybody there, because this is what the season comes down to. You just love to see that from Jonathan Allen. No, it's kind of a cop out because you can give him one every week, but the dude is just so good. We really got to feel fortunate for that we have a player like him.
It's just because you're scared of him.
Because
you're
I'm scared
of him
of him
stealing your soul. That's what it comes down to.
And
but
he
honestly,
did steal Halls.
No, he deserved it. Jonathan Allen, 8 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. Obviously, 1 forced fumble in the Daniel Jones that Jamin Davis recovered, and then 1 quarterback hit as well. He just continues to make impacts into this football team, catching an interception early on in the season. He's an all-pro, man. He really is, and I'm glad that Jonathan Allen's on our team. But for me, somebody's getting my game beer. Danny Johnson coming in the game, 6 tackles, 1 sack, 2 pass deflections, and 1 quarterback hit. I think the guy deserves it. He came in and obviously knowing that they were going to be going after him like they had done all game, and he came up helping. I know he almost had a couple chances at picks, you got to be able to execute those. But I feel like Danny Johnson does deserve a game beer for his performance yesterday.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, he was super impressed. Super impressive when he got in there. Like you said, he was targeted a bunch, but he came up big. And then as somebody else, just because of the clutchness and the slickness of the play, he was somebody who was involved early, kind of fell off a little bit, and then that final drive, Jahan Dotson, baby, with
Yeah.
that spin move, Madden creators and editors have got to be watching that and be like, we're gonna up this guy a little bit because that was slick and it was clutch as well. So you love to see Jahan Dotson get involved after he's been a ghost over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. And then the other person getting mine is Cameron Curl, led the team in tackles with 12 and 1 tackle for loss. I did feel like he should have been the quarterback spy on Daniel Jones. I wasn't able to say that on Friday's show, but the reason being is I wanted Jamin Davis on Saquon Barkley because he can kind of match that athleticism, that speed. He has the size to be able to do it. Saquon is a bigger dude. Cam Curl is kind of a taller, more DB. Same with Daniel Jones, kind of like in body structure, you could say. So I thought that those two, if you would have plugged them right up and said, you two take care of them, it would have made things a lot easier for everybody else. That being said, I knew that they were going to test the corners. They did it when I did the film breakdown of the Giants in the hospital room without my wife looking. They did not care about stressing on who the corner was. They were going to go to Slayton, and I knew that was going to happen against Holmes. And it's unfortunate because he's a young kid getting put on a big stage, obviously, like that. But credit to the Giants, man. They played a good game. They really did. And I thought that they deserved it at times. But Washington, they don't give up, man. I feel like that's the one thing you have to give this team. Like, they do not give up, and it's crazy.
Yeah, no matter what. And that's the thing, man. Like we saw against the Falcons, kind of that read option, that running game just destroyed us early on. Luckily, Washington was pesky and wouldn't go away, and ultimately won that game. But that was also the Giants
That's
saw
one of my
that.
biggest gripes is the read option. For some reason our DNs just cannot read it. What's going on?
And they're athletic as hell. All of them, even our backups. Casey Hill, F.A. Obata, those guys are James Smith-Williams. Those guys are very athletic defensive ends. Of course, Montez Sweat, we all know that. But like, it's frustrating. But New York saw that and they were like, okay, well, hey, until you can stop it, we're gonna do it as well. And they did that and it worked for a while, So I don't know what they got to do, but I know. Confident Jack Del Rio will have these boys prepared going into the bye week and then afterwards for that game.
I feel so bad for Tyler Larson, who got injured, and I think in the second half of that game, dislocated kneecap, which just sounds horrendous, just sounds very painful.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate because if you knew about Tyler, he was working hard. They nicknamed him Milestone Tyler or something like that because he kept meeting his milestones every day throughout the summer in order to get back and come back from his injury for the season. Works his butt off to get back here when we need him a lot because the center position was injury depleted because Chase Rouillet was out. Works his butt off to get back. He helps his team win a bunch of games, and then that New York turf takes his knee out, which is so unfortunate because I thought he was doing a good job just helping this team get to where they needed to go. But I hope he gets better. Prayers up for Tyler. He's a friend of the pod, and we always love you, brother. I'm sorry that happened. But let's get into our fan questions, and this one's from the Colonel. Reed. Looks like Jimmy G and Baker Mayfield are both available next season. Are we keeping Carson with the restructured contract, giving Taylor a chance to be franchise quarterback, or some other crazy scenario?
Sorry, I'm tired.
Perfect timing.
You're boring me, so I started yawning. No, it's I don't know. That's a tough one. We're not going to keep Carson. I think that they're seeing what. Like as much as they like Heineke, I do think that he's obviously limiting this offense a little bit. So I do think that they're going to want to upgrade. Well, that they went after Jimmy G last year, but then the injury came up. So with a broken foot now, I mean, you kind of got to feel for the guy. All he does is win, and then this type of stuff happens at the end of every year. It seems like where he gets hurt, and I don't know if we'll go after him. Definitely not Baker, man. Baker getting cut right now. It's just. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to look for a new quarterback, I would imagine, during the offseason.
I will say this. I've been steadfast in this. I don't think Jimmy G or Geno Smith are leaving their teams. I think Kyle Shanahan is very scared to trot out just Trey Lance at this point. They're going to look for somebody that they can lean on. I don't think that they feel confident in doing that. And that being said, like with Taylor, I'm not really – I want Taylor to be the backup. He's your perfect backup quarterback. That's what you want, a guy that comes in – knows the offense well, could get the guys riled up, and get the offense executed to a point. Not going to blow you away, but that's what he does. So I would like to see him come back here. I think that is the big cog in the entire scenario, Colonel, is what they do with their first-round draft pick. If they are considering going for a quarterback, or do they wait a year, maybe try to get in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, whatever have you. So that that is the big question for me, because I would rather to go through the draft. That being said, I think Carson does deserve the chance to be able to rectify what he did early on in the season with a better, more equipped, healthy offensive line. And I can't really say that at this point now that Sam Cosmi's injured, Trey Turner was out of the game, I think with an illness, if I'm not mistaken, and then Tyler Larson getting injured as well. So doesn't seem like to be good timing in that breath. But look, man, I don't understand the quarterback thing. Like, it's not at you, Colonel. It's just what I've been reading today. It's just a lot of quarterback talk. Look, man, they tied the game. It sucks. Let's go on to let's get through the bye, man. It's okay.
Yeah. The other thing I see people saying is about Heineke, and like I don't think he's the guy, but like people are like, well, if he wouldn't have made this play, we wouldn't have tied. We could have possibly won. It's like, okay, you can literally say that about every quarterback in every game ever that doesn't win. Like if they didn't do this, or if they would have done something different, like
So,
it happens.
I have to be honest with you guys. I watched that game up until 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we had to go to the in-laws for cash to meet Corey, my new daughter. So right as I was leaving was that that 4th and 4 was coming up. And so I didn't know what was happening next. Next thing I know, I'm checking the ESPN app when I'm on the way, and it says that they scored. When I come back and see what Taylor did on that 4th down, by coming back over, throwing that ball to Curtis Samuel, I didn't think that like, if I watched that and witnessed that, I was like, oh my goodness, dude, Taylor had a pretty good game. But it's like we walk away still talking about this thing as if he was horrible. We threw for 65%, nearly 300. Yeah, he's inaccurate, but come on, guys. Now, this next question from the Colonel. Oh, now we are joined by my boy, Mr. Redzone in the lab. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you all?
Doing fantastic, brother. I'm
Love
glad that you
hat.
could join us. I know that hat is silly.
Yeah.
I was wondering when I was going to see that yellow one. So I figured I was like, somebody with style is going to be rocking that.
It can't be me.
But Redzone, so what we like to do to wrap up these episodes of the back end is talk about our fan questions in a kind of roundtable setting with you, if that's okay. And I'll start this one off with you, if you're cool with that. This is from one of our supporters in the Colonel. His question is, Jahan Dotson clearly showed why he was a first-round pick yesterday. Do we really want to risk him returning punts? Can't we just put an end to those musings?
I don't think he needs to return the punts. My whole view about the punts is we could kind of put him in sort of like a, Deshaun Jackson type role, where if the team is punting, from their 30 or 40-yard line, if we need like a big play, some type of setup type moment.
Like late in the game?
Be a good idea. I think it'd be a good idea. Like we used to do with Santana Moss and Deshaun Jackson and other players around the league, but I don't think he should be the full-time punt return. Because ultimately, I mean, even Erickson and I forgot his name, right?
It's because he's white. We get it, man.
Yeah.
Dax Milne.
Yeah.
But I think they do a fairly good job. I mean, even if you're looking at the stats, it's not exploding, but I think he's like leading the league in return punt averages.
Yeah, and look, it's not, he doesn't put the ball on the turf. And the one thing I will want to say about AG, you saw AG in a walking boot up until the beginning of that game, and obviously he's been returning kicks this season. So that's like the kind of other thing that you worry about with Jahan. But I love that idea of saying that use Jahan in those crucial situations, late in games. Let's say you're down by a score, and they're punting the ball to you with 2 minutes left. Put Jahan out there, put a playmaker out there, and let him go get you some much needed yardage. Because I understand the safe aspect of Alex Erickson and Dax Milne being they don't put the ball on the turf, and that is the most important aspect of being able to retain possession, is not giving it away. And sometimes you do that with those more agile guys. But I understand the other flip side of it, where like Hall is saying, look, if you're going to have an offense that only averages 20 points scored, you got to get something out of your special teams to help you in that breath. And I understand that argument. It's just I like to be safe.
Yeah, but I also agree, like with the Deshaun Jackson factor almost, where it's like you put him back there when you need a big play. We used to see that all the time. I mean, we used to do that with Santana Moss too, where we would put him back there where we needed something big to happen. You needed to put him back there, and that's kind of what you want to see with Deshaun. Because other than that, like you guys said, I mean, Erickson and Milne, those guys, they haven't put the ball on the ground. They've been doing a decent job getting yardage. It's just, yeah, I guess I can see that other side too, though, where you do need the points, but. I mean, it's right now, I guess, I think if it's not broken completely, maybe, you don't got to fix it. But It'd be nice to get some points from special teams other than Tress Way contributing to stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, he's such a sick punter. But
I know.
Red Zone, this next question I have for you is from Mike Puckett on Twitter, who's in Dubai. He was in the World Cup, was at seeing the World Cup over the weekend, which is absolutely
Damn.
crazy. The pictures he was showing were insane. But his question is, Red Zone, what's the end game now for this season? Is this season considered a success already, considering all that's happened? Or is it playoffs or bust? We have to be realistic about the state of the team. Don't forget the emphasis Ron put on the season. Make it make sense.
I guess it kind of depends which way you want to look at it, right? If you want to take it from Ron Rivera's comments about, year 3 is the year. This is the year we're going to make a big impact. This is the year that you're going to see what we've been doing in the building and be able to put it out on the field. Then you have to look at it as, got to kind of wait and see, right? Because we need to get to the playoffs if that's the point that he's trying to make about taking the next step. That's basically what the next step is being able to make the playoffs in year 3 and year 4. You want to be a contender in a sense, right? So if you're looking at it from that angle, it's just wait and see for now, right? But if you're looking at the other angle, as in like what Ron actually had to do to get the team where we are now, the things he had to deal with over the last few seasons, things he had to deal with in the building, outside of the building, just different things. I mean, just starting off with this, all of the name change, like the original name change, right? And then his cancer, and then Montez Sweat brother dying, and all types of things, and then B-Rob getting shot. So it's just been so much, and not even talking about all the stuff that's going on in the top office that he has to deal with and answer those questions. So if you're looking at all of that to where we are now, it is a success, right? It is a success where we are, but I think that's a two-part question and it deserves 2 answers.
It's a really good question from Mike, and I do think it is unfair in a sense, Mike, that you're asking this because the season's still going on. I feel like this is better for like week 18, once we know everything that's going on. But I will say that in the macro scale, I understand what you mean because you could consider it a success looking at all 3 years. Whereas in 2020, they make the playoffs with a poor record because the division's poor, and that's what everyone said. There's an asterisk on it, right? Last season, they still go in and win games, barely miss out with the COVID year, all that crazy crap that happened, and they miss out on it. Going into this 3rd year, you say, no more excuses. They lose early on, but then they win convincing football games. They didn't just get lucky. They went in with a blueprint, they executed, and they won these games, and they controlled them. And they won against some very good teams on primetime football. And so in that breath, you're looking at this from all 3 years saying, this is the final form of this team. This is what they have been working for. But in the micro scale, it's still not a success because the season is still ongoing. You can lose these last, how many games? 4 games do they have left? And that could all blow up in your face, just like it was early on in the season. And you can't go back to that. So you have to finish strong. And this is all about winning a playoff game and solidifying yourself in the dance. There's one extra slot in there for a wild card. You have to get that, at least for this to be considered a success, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, just to add on to what you guys are saying, I mean, already matching the total wins from the last 2 seasons. I mean, they won 7 games in each of both Ron's first years. If they don't win another game, then yeah, I guess you could say, damn. I mean, this season was supposed to be easier. It was supposed to be an easier schedule, and they still only won 7 games, but they're going to win another game or 2, at least I would hope. So I would imagine we should be able to consider this a successful season. I would say, I mean, look, just with everything going on and not having a franchise quarterback, you struck out with Carson Wentz, but still being able, if they still end up making the playoffs with this roster, I mean, it's a good roster, but they're still a quarterback away. And if you could still make noise and make the playoffs with this, then I think that you got a damn good thing going. You got to consider that a success for Ron.
And I can understand anybody that says that they can't win a playoff game with who's behind center. And I know I kind of do laugh at that in a sense because it doesn't matter what happens when you get to the dance. That being said, let's move on to our Discord chat server. Redzone.
To add to that, Matt Hasselbeck does get Trent Dilfer made the Super Bowl. I mean, come on now, you can make it with anybody.
You
know what I'm saying?
It's true.
Yeah, Nick Foles. Yeah, come on.
Now,
that guy's got a statue built for him.
This question is from the Discord chat server Redzone. This is from our guy Tim Towner. What changes would you like to see after the bye?
That's a good one. I mean, what can we do with the O-line, right? I mean, who can we plug in? Who can we plug out? I mean, that's up in the air, right? I just don't know what's the best lineup is for this team, especially with the injuries. But I think, and when you think about Taylor's accuracy and being able to hit those easier throws. That's something that's just, if it ain't happened by yet, that's just something you really can't expect to happen. But I don't know. I think is with this team going into trying to end off this season is to kind of get healthy and get back to their brand of football. The things that's plaguing us the most, I just don't think it's going to be able to be changed or addressed this upcoming bye week. Line protection, Taylor Heiner's accuracy of making the easy throws that's right there in front of him. Like those things can't get no better. I mean, we can't really blame Scott Turner because people are running wide open. I mean, Del Rio, man, I keep apologizing to Del Rio. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and his adjustments that he's been making these last 2 weeks has been outstanding. So, I just don't know the things that need to be changed and worked on. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. Not because they're not evaluating properly. It's just that you just don't have the people in the building.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick anything to say that I would change after the bye because I feel like this isn't a time to panic. I feel like they have a very simple blueprint, and they ran the ball for nearly 30 times, which I think is very important for what they want to do. Taylor threw for 65%. They didn't turn over the football except for the sack fumble, which was kind of weird to me. They didn't even replay it for that long. Like, they didn't even think about it. I thought it was possibly going forward. But, look, that's neither here nor there. That being said, I don't feel like there's anything to change because they have done well. They've been winning. And the Giants are a good freaking team, man. Give them credit for it. And they battled them. Like, you have to understand, the Commanders, with the game that they played, they should not have been in that game. Because if you go by their blueprint, their structure on how to win games, they threw that away. They threw the book out. They didn't contain the run well. They didn't control the football. Yes, they did have time of possession, but that's probably one of the only things that they really, truly had. They didn't execute on red zone or third down very well. So when you look at this, they shouldn't have won that game, but they still tied, which kind of shows you that, like, wow, like, even though you had a bad game, they couldn't beat you. And if you continue with that blueprint, that's why I don't want to change anything. I think the way that they're doing this is very smart. And I guess the only thing I would say is possibly getting just more depth at linebacker with Cole Holcomb going on season-ending injury or surgery. So I think that is probably a glaring hole that they're going to need some help at.
Yeah, I mean, mainly, man, this bye week, I just want them to get healthy up front on the O-line because the O-line, like you talked about, man, they already were struggling, and then getting hit and destroyed, but with injuries like this, it's tough. But take this bye week, just get healthy, just kind of reevaluate. You guys still tied the Giants. You didn't lose to them despite everything going on in a poor game. So you got to feel good about that. And you got to go out there next Sunday night and really just go smack the shit out of Daniel Jones in the mouth. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it is one thing, Kyle, that I kind of thought about what you said. And I don't know much of a change, but I do kind of challenge Scott Turner to be able to be more innovative in the red zone. We understand, like, Taylor is not that velocity, can't really squeeze stuff in. So I was about to say Kyle Shanahan. Scott Turner really has to, like, look in that playbook to kind of dial up some plays for them to kind of work on. Maybe like 10 to 15 plays for them to work on when they get down, especially like within the 10, to make it easier. So I do kind of challenge him to do that.
And kind of to add on to that too, it's been weird to see Cole Turner's usage lately. Like we talked about, you draft him to kind of be this big extra wide receiver that's 6'6" with athleticism, and he ends up being a blocker mostly over the last few weeks. And it's just like, Logan Thomas has been struggling a little bit. He really hasn't looked 100% healthy so far this season, but maybe dial up something for Cole in there in the end zone, get him a jump ball or two. Let's just see what he can do, man.
Yeah, and like the whole bump outs, the screens that Armani Rogers was doing earlier on in the season, like, where did that go? And obviously you don't want to keep doing it because teams are going to keen in on it. But in the red zone, where are those type of plays where you can generate quick forward progress by catching them by surprise? Because definitely when Curtis Samuel in overtime gets into their territory on the 40-yard line, it seems like they just don't have those type of plays where they could go to in concrete with it. You know what I mean? Like, they're saying, we're getting forward with this. It's almost like scared play calling. And that's probably one of my biggest concerns with Scott is, like, it's not aggressive. It's not forceful. It's more like, I hope this doesn't happen type of thing. And it usually does.
And we all know that Kyle loves his men aggressive. Kyle loves his men when they're forceful, and it's weird. But
now everyone's going to be aggressive towards me. I'm going to blame you for it. Now, Redzone, this next question is from Andy Lockhart in the UK. Oi! Thank you, Andy. If you were the defensive coordinator, what schemes would you have utilized to stop Vanilla Vic? We know about his strengths, yet I feel we didn't shut him down good enough from a running perspective.
First, before we go on, I do apologize. I want to say congratulations, Kyle, to you and the family
Appreciate
for
it.
the beautiful baby girl that was delivered not a few days ago. I don't know. I think like when I kind of talked about the adjustments that they made, right? They did the same thing with Mariota. I think when we're talking about making adjustments and changing schemes, sometimes the adjustments is not about like making a scheme change or making a player change. It's about, reinforcing what you've already practiced. And against Mariota, that was one of the things, JSW, he kept biting. He wasn't setting the edge over and over and over again. But then when they came back, like the end of the second quarter and the rest of the game, he started to do it more because I think they just re-emphasized you have to set the edge, you have to contain. And I think that's the same thing that happened with quote unquote Vanilla Vic, is that, on those scrambles, our defensive line is used to being aggressive, but sometimes against those quarterbacks that'll take off after first or second progression, they will just take off. You have to kind of stay in your lanes and be obedient to the actual scheme that's set up for this game. So I think they kind of got out of that early. But I think, Del Rio reinforced that, hey, stay in your lane, still be aggressive, take away the big gaping holes for him to scramble. And if you noticed in the second half, on a lot of the third and longs, they had Curl down in the box, kind of spying a little bit, and also Jameis. So I don't think Del Rio needs to change anything. He just keep neither reinforcing what they're doing in practice, because it seems as if it's working.
Yeah, and I agree with you to that extent. I wouldn't say, because I went into it thinking that Cam Curl should be on Daniel Jones. So if that's the process going forward, I like it because I think they were better against Daniel Jones in the second half. I won't say it won't change anything. I'll just say I think they need to be more, have situational awareness more. Like Montez Sweat on one play doesn't see the tight end come in and crash on him. Obviously, it's out of his ear hole, and that takes him out of contain, which allows Daniel Jones. I know early on in that game, there was one point where I think it was Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne were at his ankles, and he just skated away from them. And it's like those type of just small mistakes, and that's what you can't make against good football teams. They will take advantage of that, and that's what Daniel Jones does, but you have to make it hard on him like they did the first two series. That was perfect. They executed those first two series to a T, exactly what you want to do to Daniel Jones. When you hit him, make sure he feels it and hit that ball out, because he does fumble it. So I feel like they have the keys to success. It's just being a little bit more aware. Like Jamin on that one loses contain. He's completely just disregards Daniel Jones and is following Saquon Barkley to the flat because he thinks it's the screenplay. And it's like that kind of thing. Just having your head, on a swivel, knowing what's happening to you, and knowing that what the Giants want to do is they want to distract you. And that's the one thing. So keep your head where your feet are.
And keep hitting them. Like if he do keep like that Mariota, if you notice when Forrest had punished them, he didn't run as much. And that's kind of like the same thing that happened yesterday too. When Forrest got a hold of Daniel Jones in one of those scrambles, he didn't scramble as much. His face didn't look as happy. So when they do get out in this open field, if they don't slide, you got to put a shoulder pad on.
Yep. How impressive has Derek Forrest been too?
Oh my God,
it's all year. I didn't expect this from him at all. But we're super low on Derek Forrest. All of a sudden, this dude comes out week 1 against the Jaguars, slamming people, getting picks, and he hasn't stopped.
Yeah. Now, Reed, you want to start us with this next question from Brandon Reinbold in the Discord chat server?
I'll answer Mee's question.
Thank you, Brandon. What was the biggest reason for the tie? The O-line was horrible. The Giants had pressure and was in Heineke's face all game. Other than Kendall Fuller, the secondary wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. It's tough to necessarily, there was a lot of bad calls, there's a lot of no calls, but it wasn't the ref's fault. It was not executing, not getting into the end zone like always. The defense started to clamp up. I mean, the defense started to kind of to do their job. I mean, they forced a turnover. They prevented the Giants from continuing to do what they were doing, running the football with Daniel Jones. And the offense, it's just, for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to punch the ball in. And I know it's because they're not that talented, but, they're good between the 20s. But other than that, it's a little frustrating. So, yeah, I mean, the O-line was miserable, and that happens with the injuries and things of that nature. But They got to be better. And I think it was just a combination of everything, man. It was just one of those games where it seemed like nothing was really going right for a long time.
Yeah, for me, I think it's pretty simple, Meast. I think it was the missed field goal and then the red zone offense. I feel like, obviously, no disrespect to Joey, it shouldn't come down to Joey. It should come down to us scoring points, and we shouldn't be relying on those 3 points. But the 3 points was the difference in them winning 23-20. So for me, it's the missed field goal and the red zone conversion rate. What about you, Red Zone?
Yeah, same thing. Like you said about, Joey Slye. We have to put points on the board. I mean, that drive, we should have put 7 up on the board, but even at his first field goal, I believe that definitely should have been an extra 4 points on the board. So you can't really just put it all on Joey. I don't like putting a lot of pressure on people that only play like 3 plays a game, 4 plays a game. So when you're in there, when you're in that, man, the red zone, they have to we need those extra 4 points because we use so much time, and our time of possession is crazy, but we have to score when we get down there, because holding the ball and not scoring and letting the Giants score, what was it, 10 points or 14 points in 4 minutes?
Yep.
Like we just can't do that.
It's weird too, because like I don't remember a time where teams have dominated time of possession like this and just not gotten any points out of it. Like our point differential is very odd for the time of possession that we have. It's strange, but
it is. And now the next question is from Tony Shivers in our Discord chat. So he said, "What can be done so that Jones' run game doesn't kill us in the rematch?" And we kind of talked about that before, so I don't want to bleed it to death, but I appreciate it, Tony. You're the man, dude, as always. He kept the secret about Catherine being pregnant. Didn't tell anyone. He's the man. Now, this next question that we have, this is from our guy Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi! Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, I love Scott.
Scott did an awesome job Friday, man.
He did, man. I really do appreciate it, because him and Anthony, I asked them to help me out to try to replace me as best they could. I thought Anthony was perfect for you guys. He's so personable. He's great. He's very social, and he's very articulate in the way that he sees the game and breaks it down. So I feel like it was going to make your guys' job a lot easier, and he knocked it out of the park. And then Scott Hartley plugging in stats. I love you, Scott. That's why I asked you, Scott. That's exactly why, Scott. But his question is, Red Zone, who do you lay the majority of the blame with the tie? Missed assignments, poor quarterback play, coaching?
Well, it's not coaching. Execution, I guess that falls in with the assignments and quarterback play, because we have to make, it was the pass to Logan Thomas, the pass to Jahan Dotson. Like, Taylor has to make those throws, and he has made those throws, so he's just not consistent in doing it. And but if you want to put a blame on it, has to be assignments, execution, because of the assignments of the DNs and the D line in the first half was a key contributor to over 120 yards rushing.
Yeah, and I have to basically echo your sentiments. I think it comes down to just sloppy football, and this is not being their best game in execution wise. And I think that says more about them in a good way than it does about them in a negative sense. So I'm not going to say that it's going to be blamed on anything but sloppy football. I think the one holding penalty on Charles Leno was a completely phantom call. I don't know where that came from. That was very weird. And then the other one was, obviously, they had other ones as well. But the penalties, the execution, that sloppy kind of football is what really made matters worse for them. Because we want to talk about Taylor having to sit back and throw in those big yardage. It's because of the penalties. They were put in those situations by those penalties, and it kind of sucked for them. That's not what they want to do. They want to be able to run the ball first, and you can't do that on 2nd and 15. You have to throw it. And so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you guys say, man. It was a lot of things. It was the O-line missing assignments. It was the quarterback, Taylor Heineke, missing throws.
You got to give credit to the Giants as well. They played their damn ass off, dude.
Nah.
Ojulari,
they did.
Ojulari put a move on Leno. That was a very good play by him.
Kayvon Thibodeau, even that – James, calm down. Even that play where he ripped his helmet off, and you can't do that. But that was still like Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a beast, man. That guy's so athletic. It's unfair.
Absolutely unfair. But before we had given out our game beers, Red Zone, so I want to extend the invite to you on somebody who you think deserves to kick their feet up and enjoy the evening and enjoy their beer before they get back to work, obviously this being the bye week. I did Danny Johnson and Cameron Curl. Reed, did you do Jahan and Terry?
I did
John Allen and
John Allen and Jahan,
Yeah. I would do Jahan Dotson. I think he's back to his stride. And I don't know if you talked about this, but I would love to see more scissors concepts with him and Samuels from the slot. And let me see. Let me get a defensive player. Cam Curl. I want to say Cam Curl because he's been steady. He's been great all year, but he hasn't had that I'm here and I want the world to know that I'm here moment.
He
and
almost had that pick.
He did. No, and I thought that was Danny Johnson that missed the pick.
Was that the one that he was going across the middle and it was like on third down, I think it was, and he literally
in
jumped
overtime?
out. Yeah, I think he jumped out.
That was Danny Johnson.
That was Danny?
Yeah, pretty sure that was Danny.
Yeah, that was Danny.
Oh, that's why I saw the 3. That's why I thought it was him.
Yeah, he should have. If he would have made that, I think we was in there 40.
Yeah, I think Cam is still waiting on that interception, man. He wants it so bad.
Yeah, man. Hopefully that Sunday night game can be that moment.
Oh, yeah, national stage. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody deserves that more, man.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I want to talk to you guys in a round table just real quick before we get out of here about them being flexed to Sunday Night Football next week against the Giants. Obviously, it's a huge showdown. I think the tie actually makes the game even bigger than it was before. So what was your immediate reaction to that red zone, and do you like that move?
Yeah, I think so. I always said that if we win, it was going to be a automatic flex. I think the tie, the way that the game was played, it was a very good game. It was a very hard-fought NFC East game. It's like the NFC East is back. So it's another opportunity to show the world, because when the NFC East is good, football is even better, right? It's even more stuff to talk about. So I'm kind of surprised they did Sunday night. I'm thinking it's going to be a Saturday game, but obviously they really want the world to see this matchup.
Yeah, and before we get carried away, we got to give a game better to Daron Payne. I mean, being the leader in sacks, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits. I thought it was a screen.
8.5 on the year already.
That one sack that he had on Daniel Jones, I thought it was a screenplay. He was back there so fast behind the offensive lineman. He is just playing very dominant right now, and that's exactly what everybody needs. But I loved it here in the flex because my family, I know my dad, my sister, and my sister and BK are dispatchers for the county. So they were offered tickets for this game by the Commanders, and they were thinking about going, but my family's Christmas party's on a Saturday. So we were hoping the game was on Sunday. Not only is it on Sunday, it's on Sunday night. So
my brother's graduation dinner is on Saturday.
There you go. So you were just like me. I was like, I'm hoping it's on Sunday. I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it out there with a 2-week-old, obviously. I'm not sure if my wife will give me the hall pass to be able to do that. I'll take some convincing. But I hope my old man makes it out there, dude, because I'm glad it's on Sunday Night Football. Rivera is good in primetime football with this franchise, something we have missed for many, many years.
Yeah.
I'm confident about this matchup. Like I said on Twitter earlier today, like the Giants should be pissed about letting that become a tie.
And
like
they are.
And honestly, obviously, so should we in the way that we played. But the fact is, the way that we played was not winning football, but they still clawed their way back. It is crazy with this football team. You can never really count them out. And that's the way they've been playing over the past 2 or 3 months. And I hope that continues.
Yeah. And I mean, also to piggyback off of what you said about the game beers, we also didn't give one to Terry somehow. Terry's is so good.
It's just because it's Terry. We told him he deserves
a
keg anyway. Like it's already waiting for him.
Yeah, I mean, I was pumped. I mean, it's just nice to see Washington finally get recognized nationally. And you can argue all day about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing with the way that we've seemed to perform when we've been nationally recognized. But you got to feel good about the next Sunday night. I mean, against the Giants division game, like you said, a lot of people don't understand this, but Rivera's actually been very good in prime time, especially with us. And that's something we haven't had in a long time. So you guys, this isn't like the old Jay Gruden Redskins. This isn't like, any of those other teams where it's like, all right, well, we're going to get dogged now because we're in prime time and we have Kirk Cousins.
Right.
This is we actually got a chance to be good, and we're going to go out there and get revenge. But like you guys talked about, man, the Giants are pissed. They think that they should have won that game. And Brian Daboll is going to have them up and ready to go. Wink Martindale is going to be dialing up some stuff for Sunday Night Football. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a good game.
Well, good thing they have a lot of film on them to be able to do that. And they know the kind of game that they have to play.
And we got 2 weeks to study
If it's
them.
anything like it was yesterday, I'm really excited for that Sunday night matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully everyone goes to FedEx Field. Let's represent this city. Let's represent this team the way they deserve. They fight to the bitter end, and that's the kind of team that you should rally behind and give support to. The type that don't give up, that give it their all. And I think that they will on Sunday night. Redzone, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Thank you for your sentiments and the well wishes that you sent over the birth of my child, obviously, and my wife and everything. I really do appreciate it. And then before we get out of here, though, Redzone, if you'd just like to plug your social media handle before we get out of here, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to. You're big on Twitter with the Twitter Spaces. Obviously, we're in there with CJ the Hog and the Battalion all the time. So if you'd like to talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's just Redzone in the Lab podcast on all your social media platforms. Redzone in the Lab podcast. We're everywhere. Website is redzonelab.com, so you can find all the information there. And of course, CJ has the Battalion Spaces Monday through Friday from 11 to 1, where I've been co-hosting with him during that time. So, and we also have a couple others during the week at different times. So, yeah.
I appreciate you,
Hell
brother.
yeah.
This was great time as always, and it's just like it is in the Spaces. So I appreciate your thoughts. Always, usually you and I kind of think alike on these sort of things, and always appreciate your thoughts. All right, everybody, I want to thank you guys for your support, reaching out. Really cool. The Commanders commented and welcomed Corey onto the team. I don't really know if that happens very often, but brought a big smile to our face. And so I just want to say thank you.
Wait, what happened?
They commented on the picture of Corey, and they said,
The
"Welcome
Commanders did?
Yeah, they said, welcome
No
to the
shit,
team."
really?
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't see that.
Yeah, that was really, really
Yeah.
cool.
That's awesome.
My sister was going
Yeah.
crazy in the family group chat.
I would have too.
Look at
I
your
would-
Twitter. I was like, I'm too busy right now.
They are around. Like, they are around. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff that I post, Jason Wright always likes. He
Uh-huh.
likes stuff more often. Even when I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to do it, he'll like
Right.
it. So they're around, listen and watch. That's why I tell people, man, don't bash them too much. You might be pulling you away from an opportunity, especially for content purposes.
Oh yeah, dude. Their social media team's been killing it, and like you said, Jason's always readily available. DM'd him and stuff. He's answered actually. And I've been
Yeah,
like,
he
oh,
was
shit,
just on the
all right.
bunker with Andy and
That
Freddie.
was
Yeah.
big.
Yeah,
That
so
was
make sure you
big.
guys go and
Yeah.
check out that interview. It was so well done. Andy was
Yes, it was.
masterful in being able to execute those questions to Jason. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I appreciate all you guys. Love you for all your support. Really do appreciate it. All right, I'm Kyle.
I'm old dad.
We'll see you
James,
guys.
you got to go to bed, dog.
We'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a good one. Be safe and enjoy this bye week. Calm down. Let's not fluster. Just a tie. We didn't lose. The season's not over. We didn't lose momentum. Everything is good, baby. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!